Welcome to the Toastmasters Experience. My name is Evelyn. Get inspired by today's Toastmasters Insights. Enjoy the show. And welcome to another episode of the Toastmasters Experience. I am delighted to have on this episode Maria Pettivoli and Lou Beaton. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, now today I wanted to talk about the 100-year convention in Los Angeles because all three of us were there, and I thought it would be good to just kind of debrief and, share some insights that we had about the convention. So first, I'd like to ask both of you, and maybe we'll start with Maria first, how long have you been a Toastmaster, and what is your position in Toastmasters, and was this your first convention?
Thank you. Thanks, Evelyn. Look, I've been in Toastmasters now for about 15 years. I joined in 2009. It's not my first convention. It's my second convention, actually. I went last year to the Bahamas. This year, I got to go as Club Growth Director. Last year, I went as a civilian, for want of a better word. But this year, I'm Club Growth Director for District 70. So I went as part of the training and also to enjoy the convention.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. What about you, Lou? So how long have you been a member? And did you come as a regular person or someone in a leadership position?
Yeah, so I've been a Toastmaster for 20 years. I've just celebrated that. And I went as a civilian, but it is my second convention. I went many years ago to Calgary. And I'll talk a bit more about this later, but I've had two very different experiences. I think being more experienced, I've embraced it more. I belong to 6 clubs, so I have 4 in Australia and 2 in the US. Plus, I do hold a leadership position in District 70, not high like Maria, but I do run the social media for District 70 Toastmasters.
So we do bring a wealth of experience to Toastmasters. I've been a member for 16 years, but I've never really gotten that high up and just kind of left my bubble of the Blue Mountains after 10 years. And then this was my first convention in Los Angeles, which I thought was very, very exciting. So Maria, being Club Growth Director, that would have been a very different experience, I'm assuming, going to the convention. Was there a lot of training involved?
There was, and it was very different from last year. So I suppose I should have mentioned I belong to 4 clubs as well, and one being in Canada. Look, it was a very different experience because last year, as I went in support for a good friend of mine who was applying for the accredited speaker program. So I went in support. So I was basically just a spectator. And there was a lot happening. This year, as Club Growth Director, I got to go a few days earlier and was able to undertake training, and that was pretty intense. It was from 8 in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon. Good training, don't get me wrong, but very intense training about the role of Club Growth Director. And then it was the convention, and that allowed me a little bit more time to breathe.
So attending all of these leadership trainings that you had to attend, did you miss out on a few other events?
No, because the training was prior to the convention. So I had arrived, the convention was the 14th to the 18th, with the Wednesday night inclusive. I had arrived on the 10th of August. So I was there in plenty of time to not relax, but perhaps get over whatever jet lag I may have had and then get involved in the training.
Okay.
And that was well and truly over by the time the convention had started.
Okay. So just as a question, because I'm curious, how many days of training was it then before the convention?
Gosh, it wasn't that long ago and I've forgotten already. I think it was 3 days training, 2 or 3 days training.
Okay, 3 full days training. Now, Lou, you arrived on the day of the convention. Is that correct? On the 14th?
On the night before.
On the night before. So what were you most excited about attending? Because you were a spectator like myself. So what were you most excited about attending when you arrived?
Well, I love to compete, so the World Championship of Public Speaking, the semis and the final was always high on the list. But during COVID, Toastmasters had to go online and I joined 2 overseas clubs. And for 2 to 3 years, I've been meeting with these people twice a month, sometimes even every week, every month. So for me, the absolute highlight was finally getting to meet some of those members face to face. And I remember the first night we arrived, someone screamed out, "Hey, Lou!" And I looked at them, and it took me that millisecond to comprehend that someone I'd only seen on Zoom was standing physically in front of me. And that happened again and again. I've built up quite a few friendships beyond the club as well. So I think probably my highlight was getting to spend deeper time with people face to face.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing about COVID is that so many online clubs developed, and we have been able to join a club living here in Australia, join a club in Canada and the US or wherever we'd like to join a club, and it was the same for me because I'm also in a online club, Stage Time University, so I was able to meet a lot of people there. So it was really, really exciting, and nobody appears the same on Zoom as they do in person. So that was a bit of a shock and a highlight, and I absolutely adored that. So let's go back to the convention now. What was the favorite part of your convention? Let's start with Maria first.
I have to agree with Lou. It's meeting people and reconnecting with people, those that I'd met last year, but meeting people for the first time that I had not met before and only seen them online. But I'd say for me, the highlight would have been the international speech contest, but also the accredited speaker program. I thought that was really, that was a highlight. That was really interesting to watch. And it was exciting to see who would get through. The accredited speaker program, for those who aren't aware, is very different to a normal competition. In fact, it's not a competition unless you compete against yourself to improve. So for me, the highlight would have been those two events. And of course, all the other educationals that were provided, the inspirational speakers, and just being amongst everybody who's so excited to be there at the convention.
Lou, what was your highlight?
I think the highlight for me, as well as the speaking sections, was actually the opening ceremony, bringing in all the flags and the atmosphere. It really felt a bit like when I went to the Olympics many years ago, the pride people had in their country, the feeling of everyone getting on so well together, the colours, the different outfits that people wore. I found that really moving.
I love the dancing. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you too, but I loved the dancing was broken out throughout the day with the conga lines and everything. And then, of course, the gala dinner was quite impressive. One thing that I really thought was a highlight for me was when Stage Time University, they did a bit of a debrief after the competition and sort of dissected all of the 8 speakers. I thought that was a really good highlight because all the speeches were fresh in our mind. I know, Lou, that you attended that as well. What did you think of that?
Oh, it was magic, especially when the third place winner came into the room, and I loved her attitude. He said, "Do you want feedback? Do you want to hear it right now?" And she said, "I'm hungry for feedback." I thought that's what makes people do so well. And it for me, it just showed what Toastmasters is about, how we do get really positive feedback. I mean, she's just competed. I'm not sure that I would have wanted the deep feedback then and there, but she was so open to it. And to have, I think it was 5 champions, Evelyn, sitting out the front, 5 world champions in one place, spontaneously giving feedback was gold.
Yeah. I really love that. And I love that about Toastmasters is people who do actually well outside of Toastmasters, like Darren LaCroix with his Stage Time University. He gives so much back to Toastmasters by, giving us this gold information. And I really did enjoy that. And I enjoyed all the booths as well. Maria, was there anything that really highlighted the whole experience for you?
Well, for me, I enjoyed seeing the candidates, those who were up for election, to see that process, to be able to interview the candidates who were wanting to be elected to the board, and then the whole business session, the way that was run. I know that you enjoyed the dancing. I found the dancing at 8 o'clock in the morning not as inspirational. For me, it was driving me crazy. I just wanted to get on with the session. I don't understand how you can dance spontaneously at 8 o'clock in the morning if the technology is just the ability that they had to, yeah, sure, it's not working, but let's do this instead, and they were everyone was quite, apart from me, everyone was quite happy to get up and start moving and dancing until they got the technology right, for whatever reason. I mean, I think we've all had that experience where we think the plan's going one way and then suddenly something goes awry. So for me, yeah, there were a few other things that I did go and see. As I said, the candidates were one of them. The speakers, some of the educationals that they had. Gosh, it was so long ago. I know it wasn't that long ago, but I'm just trying to think of where I did go. There was always so much happening. There was always so much happening, and people willing to assist, people willing to help you out, and just have a chat to you about, where do you come from, what's your club.
But I do agree with you, Maria and Lou, with the whole world experience of the opening ceremony. Toastmasters is a worldwide organization, and you really felt that at the convention. I mean, we sometimes feel that with our clubs because we have people from many different countries or, the like. But being at the convention and seeing groups, seeing clubs, and interacting with clubs from Korea, from India, from Jamaica, from South Africa, it was so exciting. I don't mean to sound shallow, but one thing I really, really enjoyed was that photo booth. And I know, Lou, you enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, I'm shallow as well because I think it was the best time.
I think so too. And we had so much fun at the gala dinner because we were dressed up already, and I just had the most fun in that. And I don't know how they made it, but I think it's something.
It looked like a foam booth on most sides except the front one, which had like a perspex or a clear panel, and it looked like a magazine cover. So it looked like everyone was posing on a cover and in our 1920s dresses. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I loved it. So they had it in the first room where you could buy products, and they had all of the memorabilia, and it was such a great addition. And I think a really big talking point for the Toastmasters convention. I've noticed a lot of people, you shared with me, they thought you were on the cover of the magazine, didn't they?
Oh, yes. I got a lot of congratulations on being on the cover of the Toastmasters Centenary magazine. No, it's a photo booth.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing, Evelyn, we were waiting in line, watching people's different personalities come out.
Yeah.
Some people were quite reserved and other people just went for it. I think we may have been in the later category, but we had fun. We had fun. And it was clever because they left it in where all the history and the merchandise, but bringing it to the dinner was one more chance for people who hadn't seen it or hadn't gotten to it. It was just so much fun. And they had a few little props like the microphone, and I think they had a World Championship trophy.
Yeah.
So people had a lot of fun posing with that.
Yeah, no, that definitely was one of my favorite parts of the convention.
Me too.
Let's go on to something that maybe surprised you about the convention. Lou, you go first.
So I took my husband along, the non-Toastmaster, and for probably about 15, 16 years I've known him. He has known that Toastmasters is a big part of my life, and he's come to the odd contest. And what amazed me was that Toastmasters is so super friendly and inclusive, and I was worried that he was going to be sitting there on his own and he wasn't going to have a good time. And every day he would come back and tell me about someone that he had met. And the funny part was he seemed to be hanging around all the really high leaders. He was with the vice president. He was with some of the accredited speakers. He was having a great time. And he even said to me, Toastmasters is amazing. And that amazed me. I think he finally got what an incredible organisation this is. And he spent time with people socially beyond my club and my district. And I think that really thrilled me that even he, an outsider, so to speak, could sense what you just spoke about, that it's such an incredible melting pot. And it really, I'm sure if Ralph Smedley could have popped back in, I think he would have been really pleased to see all these people getting on, because I'm sure that was at the heart, not just of making people better communicators and leaders, but, I think he saw it as a tool to bring the world together. And that's what we experienced, Mark and me, at the convention.
So, Marie, what surprised you the most about the convention?
I think for me, it was the awards evening when all the different districts and clubs were recognised for what they had achieved. And the amount of support given by others that were there to support the clubs who knew they were going to win, that they'd been notified, and just the way they embraced that. I mean, if I think back to is it District 69, Lou, the ones with the beach balls, that they were just throwing them out into the audience. And then you had New York that were all dressed the same and they all had different identification of New York, whether it be the Statue of Liberty or a hot dog or I Love New York signs. Just the way they embraced, they knew they were going to win it and they were really going to enjoy that moment and let everybody know. But also what surprised me was some of the achievements that individuals had, people who had chartered 60-odd clubs, admittedly over a number of years. Talk about the commitment, people that had been in Toastmasters for a number of years, people that had gone above and beyond for others and had done amazing things. I hadn't seen that last year, but being a witness to it this year, I just thought, oh my God, like you, Lou, I suppose I was looking at it through Mark's eyes thinking, oh, wow, I didn't realise this was happening. Mm-hmm. So it was a learning experience for me as well. So I think that's the part that really amazed me.
With past conventions, because this was the 100-year anniversary, was this more well attended? I'd like to have both of your opinions. First, let's go with Lou first on that one.
My understanding is pre-COVID, they used to hit around the 2,000 mark. And I think this was around 1,700 to 1,800, more than even last year when they returned face-to-face. So I think it's trending back up. It's taken people a while to catch up. But that's my understanding. I know when I went to Calgary, there was about 2,000 people. So with social media, especially so many people online and the ability we have with Zoom, I think the word gets out more easily these days about the convention. And I expect that to grow because it seems to me most people I met had a fantastic time and are sending that message back to their members and the districts.
Yeah. And what about you, Maria?
Yeah, I agree. Look, last year going to the Bahamas was an attraction, but I think that would have been a little bit too far for some people, whereas I think in Los Angeles it was more of an attainable destination. It was a good segue to continue a holiday. But I think I agree with Lou, but also the fact that it was 100 years, I think that's what drew out a lot of people. I know the hype back here for me was sort of, oh, that's great, you're going to the convention. It's 100 years, it's going to be a huge celebration. So I think people wanted to be part of that. So I'm hoping that momentum will continue for 2025. The convention in Philadelphia will be just as great, if not in greater attendance.
Now, what was the vibe in Bahamas? How many were in attendance to that particular one, Maria?
Hard to tell because the layout was slightly different. I would have imagined there would have been 12 to 1,500 people when I think back to the auditorium. But because the layout was different, in Los Angeles, we all sort of came together in one central spot. So there were lots of people everywhere. But the way the Bahamas was set out, it seemed as if there weren't as many people, I think, because there were a lot of other open areas that they could be at. But the vibe was certainly good, if not just as good.
Right. So Lou, just going back to you went to Calgary. What year was that, and how was the vibe back then, if you can remember?
It was very big. I remember, I think it was over 2,000 people. It's interesting. So I had two very different experiences. I felt very lonely at that convention. I didn't have the confidence to participate as fully like now. I would just go up to people and say, hi, I moved from District 70, but I think I had other stuff going on in my life. And District 70 members that I went with were so busy. They were off doing a lot of things and they were out there, and I felt quite lonely at times. And I regretted that it was only, I think, on the last day that I finally worked it out. I just had to go and say hi to people and I'd be totally included. So the vibe for me, from the outside looking on, yes, it was very vibrant and engaging, but I was a little hesitant. So probably for me, this experience has been a lot more engaging. I knew people already and I had the confidence to go out there and just talk to people. And that's my advice I'd give anyone going to a convention. It's Toastmasters. It's just like going to a club. You just go up and talk to people and the welcome is extended. So the vibe was different for me personally, but I think the vibe of a convention, it's just contagious. I think it's when you get there, people are just so excited to be there. They've traveled, they've made the effort, and everyone's very excited to learn about other countries and other ways.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we were so lucky because I think there were at least, 20 people from District 70 and District 90 in Australia who went to the convention. So everywhere I turned, there's like, oh my God, I know them. They're from Australia. This is so weird. We just had a meeting that made it very comfortable. What was the most interesting person that you met?
So one of my members was in the semi-finals from my Minnesota club, Contest Mastery, and her name is Harriet Tinker. And she's just got a beautiful heart for people. And the more I learn about her, the more I'm amazed at what she does. She works with youth. She has an incredible story, which she shared in one of her semi-final speeches. And I was really thrilled to meet her. And it's funny what you said before. In my mind, this girl was going to be 6 foot tall. She was going to be, 1.8 meters. And when I met her, she wasn't that much taller than me, but she has this presence. And I just loved getting the chance to meet her face to face and hearing more about her story. She does marathons in bare feet. She runs barefoot and she has a Zulu background. And I just found her absolutely fascinating. And what I loved about her was that, when she speaks, she has such compassion for people. And when I met her, you could just feel it. So for me, she's so different to me. We've grown up differently. We live in different places. She lives in Edmonton in Canada now. And I had a very funny moment when I traveled afterwards to Canada. In her speech, she said, all the Canadians say, how you doing? And that was in her speech, and it got a big laugh. And when I went across the Canadian border, the very first thing that was said to us was, hey, how you doing? So I really laughed at that. I thought, yeah, she's really genuine and she's a very interesting person to meet for me.
Yeah. The most interesting person that, I've actually met him before was Darren LaCroix, but just seeing how he just gives so freely of his knowledge and his information and the workshops that he gave.
Yeah, free workshop. He does so much that is free and it's quality. Yep. Sometimes you go to, inverted commas, free workshops, and whilst there's some content, a lot of it is selling the product. And he always gives heaps of content. And then he asked permission if he could just mention his product. So I really respect that, first and foremost, he gives back so much. The club that we all belong to, Stage Time, when we went onto Zoom, he was the first person I contacted. We had to put a 3-hour meeting online. And he came to our second meeting and did a workshop for us just to help us with the adjustment to Zoom.
Yeah, I think so. When I personally met him again, I saw him through a different lens and I just saw how much he gave and I just really enjoyed that. There is something about meeting someone in person. Online it's different, but in person, I don't know, you feel their energy more,
I have to admit, meeting Mark Brown, the voice of Toastmasters, and I think the day that I had formally met him, it was his birthday, and he was quite happy to tell me it was his birthday. He was with his wife, and I thought, oh, you're just a regular guy. Even though your voice it reminds me of James Earl Jones. It's that type. Yeah.
I think because they're just so willing to give of their information and they've done so well. And I think that's probably what I saw in Darren LaCroix too, because he was there consistently throughout the convention. I saw him everywhere and he just gave so much of himself. I just really admired that. So
can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
He always, when you listen to his workshops, he always talks about you've got to be the same on and off stage and you have to be genuine. And I think that's why people love him so much. He's completely the same on stage and off stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about the convention destination, Los Angeles. Let's start with you, Lou.
Well, I really liked our morning when we took Mark down to Huntington Beach. I thought that was really fun, vastly different to our Australian beaches in some ways. And we just had a lovely day down there, seeing that beautiful long wharf that we could walk along, and looking down on the surface was really unusual. Like I've never seen people surfing from that angle before, so I love that about it. I've been before, so really with a tight convention schedule, there's not a lot of time for sightseeing. I think it was hard because we had such a tight schedule, we didn't have a day to go and explore. We only had these little pockets of time. So I think had we had more time, we were going to go to Catalina Island, for example, but the ferry ride would have been too long. We couldn't do it. We would have gone to Santa Monica. So I guess Anaheim wasn't in the heart of LA, which restricted what we could do.
Yeah, yeah. And it was good, to get out, to take an Uber and go to the beaches, which we did, which I thought was really good. So when people do travel to the conventions, maybe give yourself a few days before, after, to explore the area if that's what you want to do. But if you go to
Especially if you haven't been there before, every city has something. You've just got to get out and find it. But if you're at a convention, your priority is to be at the convention. It costs a lot of money. You want to maximize your time there and meet people. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's all about meeting people. So even if you plan to go somewhere, sometimes you're walking out of the hotel and you don't want to turn your back on people that you've known online. You have to stop and say hello. So I think that free time before and after gives you more freedom to go and explore.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. So for those listening, if you do go to a convention, you're there at the convention for the 4 days. There's really not much travel time before or after. And I know that, Lou, you did a huge holiday after the convention as well as I did. Some Australians from our clubs did that as well. Let's talk about what could have been different, maybe something that we kind of, because Toastmasters, it's all about evaluation and a point of improvement. So is there anything that you thought could have been just maybe a little bit better? Lou, you can go first.
Just a couple of things, and maybe I'm showing my age here in old school. I love the app. They had an app so we could know what was on and find everything, but there was no internet in the actual convention part of the hotel. So just a small thing, it would have been lovely just to have a couple of printouts, a big, at a glance sheet on the wall where everything was happening and when. I know it's old school, but I think it could have made life a lot easier for people. And the other thing is, I know it's really hard with numbers, and it may have been a problem with the hotel, but it was a bit disappointing with the awards that Maria spoke about before. I turned up with, I think there was 5 minutes to the start, and they'd run out of seating, and it was already 6 rows deep standing at the back, and they go for a very long time. So there was a lot of people turned away, and I heard, unfortunately, some people were also turned away from the accredited speaker. So I think Toastmasters probably has to make sure that if 2,000 people go, there's 2,000 seats for those key events. Perhaps they could then, if there's still seats, let other people go in. I heard a lot of local clubs came in for the awards, which is so encouraging, but it did mean that other people missed out. Having said that, every other event ran like clockwork and there was plenty of seating, but that was my experience that I think needed some work.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Maria?
The food trucks. I love the idea of a food truck. However, where it was situated, out in the car park in that heat, meant that you couldn't sit there and enjoy your food and have a chat to other people, and the lines were long. So if you were fair-skinned, it didn't bother me, but I knew of some other people that because they can't tolerate the sun, because for whatever skin condition they may have, they just couldn't go. I don't think there was enough shade given out there for the food trucks to work effectively. But the good side is they did refund. They listened to us on the day saying this is not working for us, and I was given a refund for that option.
Yeah, so they did listen to us, and they did provide that refund, which was great. So yeah, I do think, like, if in the future when they do all these conventions, I think maybe just hand out like a tray of food. And I think with the food trucks, what made it take a lot of time is that they were taking our orders, which is amazing. But I think if the food trucks just threw out their meals, you know what I mean? Like just prepared already, that would have been a lot easier.
Pretty cool they refunded though.
Yeah,
definitely. I thought that showed great humility to say, you know what, this isn't working, we're going to fix it. They could have easily just said, oh, well, it's pre-organised, we can't change it. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, me too. No, me too. Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure having you both on the show today. But now, what is the biggest takeaway or something that you learned, Maria?
For me, my takeaway would be to try and get as Lou said, because the app wasn't always working, perhaps download beforehand exactly where I want to be. So I know where I'm going at all times. Trying to rely on the app made it a little bit difficult and I missed out on some things. So if I have my schedule pre-planned, it would make it a lot easier. I wanted to do so much more and I just missed out.
Yeah, it's funny because when I booked this months ago, I was so excited about what I wanted to do, but when I got there, I totally forgot. So just being in the excitement of being, there and then realizing, oh my gosh, I know a lot of people here. This is insane. So I kind of forgot about what I wanted to do. So I think you're right. I think pre-plan beforehand, but have it printed out. I mean, be the old school way. The old school way is sometimes the good way to go because you do forget if everything's on your phone and you don't get the internet and it's not written in your notes. So what about you, Lou? What was your biggest takeaway or something you learned?
My biggest takeaway was a reminder of something that I know in my heart about Toastmasters, but it hit hard at this convention, that this is a place where it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what your background is, what your age is, what gender you are, this is a place that will give you a chance to shine. When I saw that world champion, Louisa, there was this amazing moment where this woman had this incredibly difficult accident and she was in a wheelchair for most of the speech and she was wheeled up to get the trophy. And she was so determined to stand. And I believe she asked Lauren, the new accredited speaker, to help her. She spoke about it in one of her videos. And in that moment, I looked up and I realized that a lot of the winners this year were slightly, I won't say older people, but they were more in my age group. And I was reminded that anyone can be on that international stage. And I've really been reflecting on that, in what capacity anyone could do that. And then the second place getter was this gorgeous young girl, and she was so vibrant, and she brought a bit of a younger feel to the competition as well. And that's my biggest takeaway and reminder, is that this is an organisation. You put in the hard work, you keep trying, and you get your platform, you get your stage, you get your moment. It doesn't discriminate, and there's not that many places in the world still that I think are as inclusive as Toastmasters. And I've been here 20 years and I'm still excited by the opportunities, and the convention has ignited my passion again for Toastmasters, and I'm setting my goals really high and going for them.
Oh, that is good on you. I'm just going to give you guys a bit of a clap here. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on this episode, the Toastmasters Experience. I'm so grateful to have both of you in my life.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your company. Please tune in next time to the Toastmasters Experience.